Brian realizes how gay he sounds either, Justin.
Okay. All right, he's calling me back.
Hello, sir.
Oh, hey, were you there? Oh.
Awkward. Okay, so my theory about it maybe being on my end, not looking so hot because freaking this computer did its same lockup dance, and then I go downstairs. I actually tried first to check my messages on my phone and realized, oh, I'm not connected to the internet, even though I'm on Wi-Fi. Then I go downstairs, and none of the computers in the house were connected to the internet, and I had to do a full reboot of the router in order to get internet. And even then, when it rebooted, it took a while to establish.
Do you think it might be like a cap thing or something, or like?
I don't know. I mean, the most I can think of is that maybe something about having multiple instances of Skype is confusing, or doing a buffer overrun, something overflow.
Brian, you're missing a very important point here.
What's that?
How do we blame Justin?
Yeah. See, that's man, that's
I live my
gonna
life.
It's gonna be hard.
When he's here, it's because he's here.
I know.
When he's not here, it's gonna be because he's not here.
Smart man. That's what I need to do.
I'm
Well,
gonna run for office.
my guess is that we will not see any hiccups for the remainder, just because whenever I reboot the computer and the router, it seems like we get an hour before everything starts farting up.
$50,000 says I don't reboot.
Woo! All right, let me get this.
All right, so I think we were pretty much at the end of that segment. If maybe we could do like a soft
Do you want
intro
me
into
to...
the read, and then we'll go right into the third segment.
Okay.
Hang on, let me
Third
see
segment's
if
gonna be a behemoth.
Remember, you can follow in their footsteps. Head on over to weirdthings.com/sponsor and buy your own $30 Weird Things listener sponsor spot.
this is the first drop off.
Yep.
Brian, Justin,
What?
Yeah. Ah!
And then
people in Cuba said, I gotta doctors, best mechanics, and some of the most highly qualified people in the world, because some people in Cuba said, I gotta
you want to pick it up from some people in Cuba
No.
because some people in Cuba said.
What did some people in Cuba say?
That's the important
We're
question.
recording? We ready?
Hold on. Yeah, and 3, 2, 1.
Because some people in Cuba said, you know what? The hell with this place and your concrete dinosaurs. I'm going to America where
they have
they're a
real
little bit less
dinosaurs.
they're still janky, mind you, but they move. Moving dinosaurs.
That's right. And then, yeah, do you think they show up and they thought they were hoping maybe we had actual dinosaurs, but they're like,
Maybe
these
that
just
was
as
like
fake.
Castro standing on the beach in Cuba smoking a cigar going, ha ha, they lied! I was about to give him a German accent.
He
They
should.
lied!
He should. Achtung!
I just imagine it's like, oh, Juan Carlos, did you hear, like, in Epcot, they have, like, a hall of presidents. Presidents just talk to you over there. Like, man, I would really love to see that. I would actually get on a boat and float to
I'd
Florida
actually
to
take
see
my
that. It
52
sounds awesome.
Ford and make it into a boat and go
Yeah.
see that. Which they can do, by the way.
That's true.
Indeed.
And
All
what's
right, well,
cool
tell you
is,
what-
like, we've got all of the really, really clever ones here now that could, like, figure out how to turn cars into boats and stuff.
yes,
pretty
the
awesome.
car boat business, sorely lacking these days in old Havana town.
Hey, speaking of the wonders of commercial enterprise,
Yeah,
Justin,
buddy.
do we have a commercial to support this enterprise?
I would like to let everybody out there know that, again, we are sponsored by the Wanderer's Pathsbooks.wordpress.com. You can read the first 5 chapters of his upcoming 6-part sci-fi fantasy book series, The Wanderer's Path. Just head on over to wandererspathbooks.wordpress.com, and thank you for supporting the Weird Things podcast.
Very cool, very cool. And I love the fact that we are kind of a nexus for sci-fi, all kinds of cool stuff. People who find different things here. It is awesome, and it's great to see that our fans and people out there are out there telling stories.
Yeah, man.
Gentlemen. So we talked a little bit earlier on the whole zombie thing.
Yeah.
Potential
I mentioned,
alleged
thank goodness
zombie
somebody has
thing.
a plan, because tell you what, outbreak happens. Remember, I'm like, I'm gonna go to sea. That's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna be a pirate. Rah!
I do remember that.
Hell with that. You know where we're going?
Where?
Where?
Canaveral, SpaceX,
Yeah.
Falcon 9.
Wait a
We're
minute.
gonna
How are
blow
you?
this rock.
Wait, you're gonna leave the planet? How long how many Snicker bars can you take with you to space? You guys are gonna be starving within seconds.
We'll think through that part of the plan when we need to.
Okay, all right. So your plan is to go up in space, like I don't know, a few 100,000 feet above us, and you think you're gonna be safe? 30
Well,
miles
you like 225 miles up.
All right.
Brian, when you're in space, no one can hear you squeal with delight because you're outside of the zombie outbreak.
Yeah, Brian, pretend you're Sergey, I'm not a gay, on board the ISS, okay?
Right.
All right, you're like doing your mission. You're on your Lenovo pad computer from like 1992. You're doing some playing some Tetris and doing some space work, okay?
Sure. I'm sorry, that sounded good. Actually, at first I don't
You're
even
the
look
Russian. Come on, you're Sergey.
At first, I don't even look up because I'm not really thinking about the fact that I'm on the ISS. I'm like, comrade, could you get that? And then I'm like, what?
And it's the ISS, so you got some Danish dude like Hans Short Pants is with you too.
He's sitting there with his lederhosen on, playing the accordion, the space accordion.
Exactly.
And then there's the American Larry.
Get that? It's me, Hans Shortpants. What's up?
He's like, Achtung. Open up.
Baby.
Well, you gotta what? There's a knock. Where's this knock coming from?
Well, I don't know. Let's knock back. We'll just.
No, you're like, where is this knock coming from?
It's obviously coming from the space
Don't
door.
be such a glockenspiel, Sergey.
So
Why
go
don't
to
you
the
go answer
space
the door?
Oh,
Go
comrade.
to the space door, and this is what you see. Justin, help me out, all right? You can describe to the audience.
We have Americans. And then he's just like, he cracks it open just a little bit. He's just like, yes. I keep wanting to make
There
him
are
German.
zombies in Florida. Help us.
He's like, oh, comrade, the zombies. I cannot, we have strict policy. That's said no solicitation.
Hey, we built this thing. Not as literally.
No.
We built it on rock and roll, I was informed.
Man, I wonder what you realize. Like, give that 5 years. SpaceX will be in a position to make unannounced visits.
Okay, all right. Wait.
Hey, what's going on? Elon Musk is flying by, knocking on the space station. I'm building my own down the road. Just thought I'd come say hello.
Oh my God! Imagine the
publicity.
space ding dong ditch.
Yes, like the space. Imagine the publicity of Elon Musk just going for a space joyride. The world's first space joyride. The world's first space social call. He shows up and he's ding ding, and he just hands them cupcakes and he's like, "Peace out," and then he sails on back. That would be amazing.
All right, I want everybody right now, if you are listening to this, to go ahead and read Andrew's post that went up on Weird Things Today called actually I forget what the title is, but it's about the space boom.
2 words.
Yeah.
Space
boom. Very simple.
Those are two very good words. I like space and I like boom.
Well, listen, I mean, like a lot of people, and you've seen, a gigantic amount of attention, and I think, I mean, just a lot of really exciting feedback from the NASA or the SpaceX trip with NASA's funding, the Dragon capsule up to the International Space Station. First time that's ever happened with a commercial entity. Obviously, we spent the entire episode last week talking about it as me and Andrew were on our way up there to see it launched. But Andrew, explain just a little bit of what you talked about in the article about what this means for us and as he puts in very very geek centric terms, before the Game of Thrones series will be wrapped up on television.
Oh, before we even get midway. And we're going to talk about some of the politics and economics of this. Brian, I called him up a couple days ago. I'm like, want me to make you mad? Want to be mad? I'm going to tell you something that's going to make you mad.
Yep.
And did it make you mad?
I can't remember what it was. What was it again? Because I'll probably get mad about it all over again.
SLS.
SLS. Wait, say it again?
Oh, yes.
What is it? Remind me.
The we'll get to it in a second.
Okay.
He just blocked it out. He was so mad.
No, I know as soon as you say it, I'm going to get
drunk,
mad.
got violent.
I punched old ladies and sent them into space.
SLS!
So here's the thing. Is it like my uncle, by the way, I've never talked about this. He was a big time rocket scientist guy. You're like, we're shocked, Andrew.
Yeah.
and he designed like control systems, all kinds of stuff. And my mom was talking to him about this, and he's kind of like, oh, big, he's kind of like, well, we've done that kind of big deal, so what, whatever kind of thing. Okay.
I can't read that first word.
So anyhow, but the thing is like this, is we go like, all right, the first step is SpaceX, in 10 years has gone up there, has built a rocket, and has done what has been done before in some terms, but based upon entirely new technologies. Okay, the SpaceX Merlin engines are built off of their own design. They inherited designs that went back from, there was Apollo designs, stuff the Nazis built. Remember, the first country to put a thing into space, not orbit, but space, were the bad guys with the V-2 bombs.
Wait, that went into space? So I guess suborbital flight, huh?
Yeah, that was suborbital, but they went that high up. Okay.
Yeah.
So
and that's and those things massive. I was telling Andrew today, if anybody's in the London area, you've not been to the British War Museum, it is an absolute must go. And they have a full V2 rocket in their lobby, and it is the most insane thing to think that those many of those pounded London.
Who was that awesome Nazi female pilot who, like, when they were working on their rockets, one of them kept listing to a side or something? So they sort of just wedged in a joystick and they put her in the freaking rocket and they said, go for a ride. And then she was able to control it. She's like, oh, it feels like your back rudder is running on this. I'm gonna have to look this story up, or maybe I'll kick it to the folks watching live and see if they can find me a link to it, because I can't remember her name, but it's freaking extraordinary.
You lost me an awesome female Nazi pilot. I'm just going to say that.
Look, man, say what you will about the tenets of National Socialism. She knew how to fly a rocket. That's all I'm saying.
So, anyhow, middle of all this attention on SpaceX, Elon Musk has been kind of very forthcoming about SpaceX plans. And incredible achievement, what they've been able to do, and we'll get into in a moment, like all the other current companies that are working on this, that have NASA contracts. And I'm going to tell you, I'm going to handicap them for you based upon my vast experience at staring at my Starship Enterprise model.
That's why they call you the Space Bookie. Space Bookie Maine.
Elon Musk has come out and he said, well, how are you going to move the technology forward? What's going to be the next step? Besides the fact that already the entirety of this system that we saw was privately paid for. This is now NASA contract to go there, but the rocket, everything was developed with private money for less money than it cost to make John Carter of Mars and Green Lantern.
What?
Okay. So
what?
Putting in terms, like we could have had two SpaceX. So anyhow, what is the next step? Next year, 2013, SpaceX plans on, again, these things have a habit of slipping because it is rocket science. SpaceX plans on launching the Falcon Heavy. The Falcon Heavy would be the largest American rocket system since the Saturn V, and it would be the largest rocket system since the Saturn V globally. Now, the Russians had the inertia system, but that was putting like a Buran, and that never quite, they did one successful launch, and so I'm not sure, how the people who keep records like count this, but anyhow, it would be a humongous rocket. Next year, SpaceX wants to put this up. Falcon Heavy, largest capacity, more than the shuttle. Side note, when the Dragon capsule docked with the ISS, it is the largest cargo capacity that we currently have of any nation that can return to Earth from the International Space Station. More space than the Soyuz.
Wow.
Okay?
Wow.
There's a European and a Japanese rocket. They go up there, and then they burn up on reentry. You don't put people in there.
Right.
Unless you just don't like them. So, Elon Musk says, hey, listen, this is the next step. He tweeted out a photograph, which right now, if you go to Spaceboom at theweirdthings.com and you see this, it's the last photograph there, and it's really an amazing photograph. And it's a night shot, and you see what looks like the lower stage of a rocket. And then in the corner, you see a little line, a little white line, and that is a time-lapse photo of the International Space Station and the Dragon spacecraft flying overhead. The rocket you're looking at is a test rocket in McGregor, Texas, near you, Brian. We get zombies. You get this.
Right? Is this it right here?
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, for our people watching live, if you look in the right corner, you see that line, okay? What you're looking at that's the time lapse of the International Space Station and the SpaceX Falcon, the Dragon flying overhead. That rocket standing right there is called the Grasshopper. That is a test rocket because SpaceX is pouring a ton of time and people and energy and money into developing a fully reusable rocket. That is their test rocket on the launch pad right now.
Now, this is not a new direction for them to go. He's been talking about this. You forwarded me that article from 4 years ago to the day of the actual launch back in 2008, where he was saying, they were asking what is the most significant advance, and he said a fully reusable system, and then he goes on to just trash what a joke the space shuttle was in terms of a reusable item. It was more expensive than building brand new rockets each time, and and the most important part, the giant tank of fuel was not reusable, and they had to build a new one of those each time.
And we'll get into why. And NASA is filled with brilliant, great scientists and engineers who have to deal with the burden of working within a government bureaucracy and having to appease senators and congressmen. And we'll get into how bad it really is for them. And so sometimes we've come out, probably a little NASA bashing at SpaceX expense, and that's been more of the nature of the bureaucracy. Nobody has been more excited of this outside of SpaceX than NASA, because this gives NASA whole new capabilities.
Well, it gives them the freedom to follow their original mandate.
Mm-hmm.
They were essentially supposed to be the Federation of Planets, exploring brave new worlds.
Exactly, and NASA now says, we're going to look beyond Earth orbit, etc. It's like, imagine if NASA had to build every computer they used, every truck they used, everything to do like that. They would never be able to get anything done. Now they have SpaceX and other companies, Orbital Sciences, which will be launching soon, other companies that can do that and allow science to focus on the science and exploration part of it. So Elon Musk has talked about a reusable rocket. Now, what does reusable really mean, okay? When the Falcon 9 took off towards the International Space Station, there were two costs other than the service cost. There's the cost of the rocket, which is about a $60 million rocket. Then there's the cost of fuel. The cost of fuel to send that capsule to the International Space Station was about $200,000. To send a 737 commercial airplane around the world, you're looking at $260,000. Cargo capacities vary, but in understanding scale, to send an airplane around the world, passenger plane, 737, you're looking at $260,000 in fuel cost. To send the Falcon 9 to the space station, $200,000. So that's how little it costs compared to the rest of the launch cost.
Now, when you were talking about 2013 is when they're going to launch the Falcon Heavy, is the Falcon Heavy supposed to be fully reusable, or this is still...
Eventually.
No. Okay. But see, I guess that's the great thing, is like they can build just a traditional dumb rocket right now, and then eventually explain for those who haven't seen the animation what a fully reusable 3-stage rocket looks like.
So you have like 3 stages to your rocket. You have your primary stage, which gets you high up. You have your secondary stage, which is a big part, and then you have your upper stage, which is what goes into like orbit. Okay. The primary stage, this big huge chunk. Imagine it separates. The first one to separate. Okay, and it's going like in like Mach 3 or something like this. At this point, it would fall back into the atmosphere. It would right itself. Its rockets would then ignite like not all the rockets, like one of the rockets with remaining fuel, and then land itself back onto the launch pad.
All computer controlled, right? Like just all computer controlled. Like the computers like go back home.
Yeah. And then the second stage would do the same thing. And so if you drop these things, you put up parachutes on them, you drop into the ocean, they're going to get damaged on impact, and even worse, they're going to get saltwater corrosion. It's like dumping acid into engine parts. It's bad.
Right.
Landing on the launch pad like this. It's really
hard to aim a rocket to land in a pool or a freshwater stream. Very dangerous to do that.
So what happens here is each stage lands back. They go in. Imagine like a 737 jet. You pull into the airport. Mechanics get out. They go check all the little parts of it. They look at the computer gauges, and they say it's ready to go. They refuel that sucker, stack it up, and it's ready to launch again. When you can do that, and if you can get 1,000 launches out of that rocket, you divide that $60 million cost by 1,000, and you get a $60,000 cost, $60,000 per launch capital cost. Add that plus your price of fuel. Add another $40,000, whatever. You're looking at that point, if you want to divide that, you're looking at a launch cost of, let me pull up my statistics.
I mean, less than $1 million for sure, right?
What's that?
Less than $1 million for sure.
Well, your cost per your $300,000 per launch. Your cost per pound is now. Let me get the precise figure before I go. Okay, your cost per pound now comes down to $15 per pound.
What?
15. What was? Do you know what the space shuttle cost per pound was if you factor in the entire cost of the program?
Wait, do you realize like at that weight, it becomes like to deliver a pizza to space becomes only like $40 or $50? Literally, to deliver a pizza
Dude.
to the International Space Station.
For the same price scheme as a high price lady of the evening, you can send something to space.
Musk wants to do this with the Falcon Heavy, which would put the cost below $10 per pound. Okay.
Oh,
do you
my
know what the
God.
cost per pound, the true cost per pound, was with the space shuttle?
We've been throwing around $10,000 to $20,000 per pound, but I don't know if that's true or not.
30.
$30,000 per pound?
$30,000 per pound. Okay. Now there are cheaper ways to get into space, but $10,000 is always considered, by the guys who've been in the industry. That's it. $1,000. Am I frozen?
No, just your video. You're good.
Oh, it's fine. $1,000 was always that magic price point. When you could get below $1,000, that's when you could do really cool economics in space, businesses and stuff.
Now, I'll tell you what I'd love to. I want so bad for there to be a simple resource that everybody can wrap their mind around that makes it worth it to go up there. Now, we hear vague terms like, harvesting minerals from asteroids, whatever that means. And for a while, we heard about, what was it, helium-3 on the moon might be worth picking up. And we hear vague promises of medicines that can be made in zero G, but I can't name a specific on any of those. And
I'll tell you what, then you should really go read Andrew's post on weird things.
That's awesome. Is that what it's about?
Brian, it's about, I'll give you the synopsis here. It is about the three biggest sectors that are going to totally change our economy and bring us accelerating growth from enormous ways, okay?
Yep.
When you get to that really low cost, when you're talking below $10 per pound, okay, mom and pop businesses can start talking about businesses you could do in space, but forget them, okay? First thing that happens is communication, all right? Right now, we're dealing with dicey internet connectivity, okay? Because the cheapest way to provide high-speed connection is through cables and fiber optics and stuff like that. When you can put satellites up in space at $10 per pound, you can fill space with satellites.
Okay.
You can put a ton of stuff.
And we don't think that's a problem as far as like...
That is such a minor problem when you're dealing with the economies of scale and what you're doing up there. You have a space tug business or whatever. Space is big.
So I mean, basically, the answer is yes, you got to track, and yes, that'll be a problem. But compared to the problems of rocketry, this is nothing.
It's worrying about pelicans crapping on the end of the dock.
Yeah, all right.
Compared to, well, we could park this big oil tanker here, but the pelicans are gonna...
It's like, well, we're gonna fly hundreds of airplanes in the sky at the same time.
So, and there are little problems that have to be dealt with, but when it's that cheap, these are easily solvable. So, satellites, okay? You want to have a phone call that doesn't drop. You want to watch a 4K movie on your iPhone. God knows why. While you're in the middle of the outback. Do you want people in Syria and Iran to have access to internet without their governments?
That's the important thing. It's there was a really good documentary. It was a little bit tough to watch when they get so hippie with their language, but it was about the folks during the Occupy Wall Street movement who were working on a project to completely distribute completely independent internet of any of the major pipelines, and about how well, I mean, it's an idea that I think is important, and it should be the kind of thing. Their goal was for a couple $100, you basically have this pod and an antenna that connects to other, of the same type.
Yeah, it's an old idea. That's the cheap mesh. Yeah.
Right. Correct. And with the importance being that you don't want to be in a position where the government could shut down the backbone of any kind of internet.
No, the idea of doing the big mesh is a neat idea. The problem with the mesh is that your government troopers go around with a Wi-Fi sniffer and just shoot every single person who has a node. But it's potential. But when you start moving to satellites and line of sight and other things, you all of a sudden you have cheap, abundant telecommunications. People who live in, we're first world. We're complaining about our Wi-Fi access and complaining about our LTE. Most of the world would love to have edge.
Yeah. Sure. You're talking about the slow ass AT&T network.
Yeah. So when you talk about moving 6 billion people, the rest of the planet over to have faster high speeds, abundant internet access. I pay $100 a month for my cell phone. I pay another $100 a month for my internet and cable connectivity and all these things. And so this is a $1 trillion industry that all of a sudden the next big huge step becomes space, more satellites, making it much, much cheaper to throw at satellite. If you want to provide, internet coverage using satellites,
So
it's
this
ridiculously
is-
expensive.
This is a case where you can get massive increase in the quality of bandwidth, and consumers will see a massive reduction in expense for it. And that's all based on cheap satellite flights.
Ridiculously cheap satellites that make it cheaper than wiring up node to node,
Wow.
and laying cable and the property rights and everything you have to do with that.
And so, we think about, and listeners to great shows like Tech News Today here on a daily basis. And you talk about it a lot on Frame Rate with Tom Merritt, just the constant butting of heads we have with kind of big telecom. This completely shakes up that entire industry. And now companies that have a very entrenched position where they can leverage their authority in ways that annoy the hell out of everybody now find themselves in a completely different landscape that is really limitless.
Think about the Google model, and I didn't get into this here, Google model for how they run their big server farms.
Right. Where everything's
buy a
in
bunch of
storage
really-
containers.
Yeah, they buy a bunch of cheap servers, they put 100,000 of them in a room.
Used
and
hard drives as well, right? A bunch of cheap used hard drives.
And when they go bad, they just leave them there for months until they do their standard repair. So
And because
you
they have
start
so much
putting hundreds of
redundancy.
What's that?
Because they have so much redundancy, it doesn't affect their
When
service.
you get into satellites with a tremendous amount of redundancy, you get into this. So that's communications. That's just one of the things there, and that's a $1 trillion industry alone. That is, when you have that cheap access to space, that's one of the things you're doing. Okay, the second thing is materials. Not the stuff, it's, and like you point out, like it's hard to say, oh, we'll make this or make that in space. But if Planetary Resources is committing money right now to try to figure out what's out there using telescopes to look at near-Earth asteroids, because they think there's a lot of these have these platinum group metals, which are very valuable. When you want to make a fuel cell, most expensive component is platinum. Platinum goes for about $1,500 an ounce.
Wow.
One of the biggest problems holding us back in building better batteries and building better fuel cells and making these things really, really cheap is we're trying to find alternatives because platinum is a scarce metal.
Now, what about stuff like I hear about the coming crisis of rare earth magnets or rare earth materials? Is that something that could be found in space theoretically?
You could, but there's like the platinum groups include like nickel and stuff like that. They're up, you'll find that along with like platinum. But the thing about a lot of that's more of an economic crisis where we made it difficult in the United States to mine that stuff because of certain environmental restrictions. So we bought from China, and then China's been raising their prices now to the point that we have tons of places here we can mine for it. We're going to go back and open up these mines.
Got it.
But things that are really generally rare like platinum. So that $1,500 an ounce, if you find an asteroid that's got a ton of it, all of the platinum, all those materials we have on Earth came from asteroids. But now what we're doing is like, let's go look for the asteroid that didn't break up.
Right.
And so that's another $1 trillion industry that is made possible when you have ridiculously cheap access to space. You go to one of these rocks, it's not like you're trying to dig in the entire Sierra Nevada mountains for platinum. You find humongous large veins.
Do you think, and I'm sure this is not on your list, but from a military standpoint, it seems like once it's cheap to get to space, all of a sudden, if I want true supremacy, that it seems like what I want to do is get a permanently manned station up there just to hang out by all the asteroids and just, because that's if you ever read The Moon is a Harsh Mistress by Robert A. Heinlein, that's essentially how the moon gets its freedom, is by realizing that they're at the top of the gravity well, and that's pretty much all the advantage they need, in that they just hurl rocks down onto strategic areas of the United States.
There's a whole nother discussion about all the legalities and the military ramifications, but speaking just purely in the civilian space thing and the idea that if it's a big boom, there's going to be a lot of money for everybody, and peace would be much more of a preferable choice than not, because when you're looking at over 1,500 near-Earth asteroids and we don't know how to mine just one yet,
but we
there's a lot of potential. So
figure out how
you
to
get into
push
that.
it
So
down.
the platinum groups, things like that, where all of a sudden you're actually getting usable resources, and we may know by the end of this decade if that's viable within our current look of technology. Okay. Third, last big group, and the most important one of all, energy. Okay. What do we want? We want perfect clean energy. What do we talk about? We talk about solar or wind. Okay, wind takes up space. It's noisy. It kills birds. You have to get permit to have wind energy in the United States.
And nobody wants it in their backyard. Everyone complains about
it kills, bald eagles. Solar power, You know, people, well, we'll cover Arizona. We'll just cover Arizona. We can't even build an oil pipeline through uninhabited land and cover it with dirt.
Right.
And we think that we're going to go cover Arizona with solar cells. Okay. Where do you have a lot of space? Where do you get 144% energy efficiency and sunlight 24 hours a day? Anybody? You guys know? Do you?
What does 144% energy efficiency mean? Where it's like the energy of making the solar array pays out more dividends from the sun?
It means what you would get at the Earth's surface versus what you get out in space.
Wow. Okay.
So it's 144% more efficient than what you have at the Earth's surface.
No cloud cover.
Right.
Yeah.
It's always sunny in Space-Adelphia.
Yeah. Except for it's something like 2 hours a year when you would in a standard orbit when you would go into the shadow of the Earth for like a certain moment, the equinox or something. It's like there will be people who will point this out and explain to me, you're incorrect. 364 days and 23 hours of sunlight.
Right.
It's like, and that matters, but no, it doesn't.
But of course the question is, how do you get that energy down? And I know, there's simple things like just shoot a giant microwave beam down, but it's like, that seems like a giant space ray to destroy
That's the challenge, is that you built an incredibly powerful space weapon, and I point that out there that but we're comfortable with the idea, most of us, of nuclear power plants that perform generally are still the cleanest form of energy they have, even when you have things like Fukushima and what happens in Japan.
Yeah, sure.
So we're already dealing with these dangerous things in some ways, and dams
So what's
cause
a giant
earthquakes.
space ray?
Yeah, come on.
So there's ways in which you would manage that kind of thing. How do you keep the space ray from vaporizing the planet? And one is you'd put, just like you secure a nuclear facility, you would do the same thing here. The biggest danger in a nuclear facility is hasn't so far isn't what happens when people from the outside get there. It's just sort of it not working right. When the space ray doesn't work right, it stops producing energy.
Right.
So says Andrew before the great space burnout of 2022.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I don't know.
The space ray that leveled Cleveland.
I mean, it just seems like in my imagination, you picture the space ray beaming down unimaginable gigajoules of energy, and then like a freaking rock just knocks it, and it just sort of lists across California, carving out a second Grand Canyon.
I am hesitant to be fully like, oh, the problem solved, given that a cruise ship, the Costa Concordia, one of the most sophisticated pieces of moving equipment on the planet, is sitting on its side off the coast of Italy because some guy wanted to wave at a girl,
Right.
So, but that being said, these are the challenges, but these are, that's the thing, is it when you can have $10 per pound, you can put a ton of solar arrays in orbit, you can start doing things like, there's more water on bodies smaller than the Earth than there is all the water on the Earth.
What? You're talking about on all the asteroids?
Europa has more water than Earth.
Oh, okay. Yes, correct.
So, and then you go to the asteroids, which have water. The moon has water. You start taking this water, and you have a tremendous amount of solar power. You can start cracking it for hydrogen. You want to get really crazy. We actually have a satellite up right now that tries to collect antimatter, tries to see how many antimatter particles. Not a whole lot, but when you have a ton of energy, and we've actually increased our efficiency in producing antimatter. Like every 10 years, we double our capacity to produce it. Same thing with hydrogen. Now that's with antimatter. Wow. And we might realistically see antimatter production where you have places with a tremendous amount of energy. Crazy, far-fetched.
Yeah, which, I mean, obviously, if you're, of the three, it seems like the first one, telecommunications, is the first slam dunk as far as...
because that's what we're doing right now. It's already a reason we have a space industry.
I mean, listen, these are all very, very, very exciting things. But there's one thing that watching through all of the reaction to SpaceX and watching all of the giddy news conferences between NASA and SpaceX, which Andrew very correctly categorized as always starting like a Mr. Show sketch with the awkwardly framed desk shot and three people staring right into the camera. It's really kind of, I know for me, and Andrew touched on it before, changed a little bit of how I want to talk about the SpaceX versus NASA thing that I think I know I am very guilty of on this podcast and probably on the website as well, kind of setting up as a one versus the other kind of thing. Because the more you kind of see reaction from NASA, like we said before, they are very excited about the idea that they can now get out to space and just do more work out there in space. The options have just exploded for them exponentially. And really, if you kind of read between the lines, and this is something that's kind of dominated conversation between me and Andrew, between us watching the launch and doing this podcast, is that it's not really. There's a lot of people at NASA that didn't like a lot of the really annoying things that we were frustrated about the NASA organization to begin with. Chief among them, just the sort of no bid, crony capitalism culture that had kind of pervaded it. And I think that's really what I would like to on the podcast, just kind of get across to people that, that's what's annoying, that people, wrapping their absolutely counterproductive, no bid culture around with the blanket of it's a public agency, we're all doing it, that feel good kind of cloak, when really it was hampering for the last 30 years our ability to get into space. And Andrew, you had a particularly galling example that you found.
So if you step aside from what SpaceX just accomplished, along with, a very enthusiastic and jubilant NASA, and there's a lot of, a lot of learning from SpaceX, talking to NASA engineers, both the ones working at SpaceX and existing NASA scientists and technicians, about what are the challenges, what do we need to know. When you step aside from that and you look at what's going on in the other companies that are going out into space, there are several private companies. There are more private companies trying to build spacecraft or space vehicles now than you have companies trying to build passenger jets.
What?
So the next one up, so NASA has this program that SpaceX was part of, which they got grant money to try to go to the space station, and then after doing that, they get funding to do cargo missions to the space station, and try to do this. Okay,
I'm sorry, hold on, we lost you there for a second. You said there's a what?
Other companies that are involved in this too. Okay?
Right.
So we've mentioned before Orbital Sciences. They've been launching satellites for years. They're next up. They're going to try to do a cargo flight. And I'm going to tell you the thing about all these in a second. There's Alliant Tech Systems, which has been part of like some bigger conglomerates. They're developing the Liberty rocket and a passenger spacecraft system. They're not getting NASA funding, but they have an agreement. If we develop this and we get to a certain point, NASA will consider testing it, etc. Boeing is developing a crew module to be able to take astronauts to and from the space station and put it on top of other rocket platforms. Sierra Nevada is building a thing called the Dream Chaser. It looks like the shuttle that the Bionic Man crashed in.
Awesome.
Okay. And then there's Blue Origin, which is Jeff Bezos' company, which I've finally found out more about what their plans are.
The only thing I know about Blue Origin was they wanted to do the Buck Rogers style single stage to orbit and land.
They have a single stage that can do suborbital, and then they can put it on top of other stages to do orbital.
Okay.
So that's what we know now.
But it lands Buck Rogers style. Completely rad.
Very, very vague about that. Well, that's what Elon Musk is doing now with the capsule that SpaceX is building for taking crew to the space station and back. Would go on top of two-stage rockets, and then that capsule would land via rocket power.
Well, and that was the idea being that it would be an escape capsule. If there's a problem on the launch pad, they'd be able to launch this thing off, and it lands itself, a few miles away, Buck Rogers style. But that same functionality would allow it to land theoretically on Mars.
Elon Musk is like, listen, if we got rockets in this thing, let's run the numbers to see what if we just want to have it land from orbit like this.
Yeah. Well, he talks about that, how in certain areas of Mars, the atmosphere is so thin that it would be useless to even bother with parachutes. So you might as well have controlled rocket landings.
So that's that program, and I'll get to the bigger program in a second. And the thing is that all of them, to my knowledge, except for SpaceX, are using leftover boosters from the Soviet era, leftover engines from the Soviet, or designs based upon that, which these were capable rockets. And the exception is, I'm going to get to Alliant in a second. These were capable rockets, capable engines that did a good job, that were very, very good, but the technology's advanced since then.
Yeah, sure.
So it's building a program on surplus hardware where people go, well, SpaceX copied designs, or like SpaceX looked at what worked, but they make their engines, their rocket engines are made outside of Los Angeles entirely.
So when you say using, you mean they're physically using leftover rockets?
Orbital Science's next launches will actually use rockets they found in a warehouse in Russia.
What?
Okay.
You want rocket? I have rocket. I just get you rocket. It's no
Now
problem.
they've got the license to make those engines afterwards. Okay. Or one of these companies has a license to continue making these engines.
That's a little bit terrifying.
We've been launching
Why
since
is it not
outside
terrifying?
the
He's
space
a
shuttle.
good rocket.
Brian, all of our military satellites and stuff that we've been launching so far have been launched on Russian rocket engines.
Yeah, sure. No, I mean, look, I mean, it makes sense by the numbers, but on the other hand, it's just like I can't shake the image like Justin says. The guy's like, I make countdown. You press button and go to space. What is problem?
Me and my cousin Olaf, we watch Warehouse. No one goes into Warehouse. We sell you rocket. It's fine.
It's good.
It's good. It's
You
great
want
rocket.
Levi's?
We cut lines of cocaine on this exact rocket. We go to space.
So you have that's and meanwhile the Russian space industry, a lot of the really smart young people that are going into oil and gas and in the space industry there is kind of in a precarious situation. So some of these rocket systems, like here's my complaint, and I'm an ignoramus, and there may be people who work in this industry who are going to say, "Man, Andrew, you're an idiot," but what the hell? If you're frustrated by the way things work, because you know, oh, why are private companies doing this? It's the way it's always worked. All rockets have been built by private companies under contract with the government. But the way that it worked before was, if you're a company that wanted to build a rocket engine, you'd go to Washington, you'd pay $1 million for a lobbyist to go woo some senators. If you go look and see who sits on these committees that appropriate funding, you tend to find out that those senators generally come from states like Florida, where these companies that make these rockets are located.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll tell you
the
what.
next generation rocket, the thing that NASA is building next, as they've been ordered to by Congress, is called the SLS system. Okay. The SLS system is supposed to be this next generation rocket that will take us beyond Earth orbit, that could take us to Mars and all that. And it sounds great. You look at this thing on paper and you're like, this is an exciting thing. And then you look at it more closely and you realize what this is. Okay. It's the exciting name. It stands for the basically, I guess, the Space Launcher System. Okay. Right?
Sure. And, wait, what are you, against space? Come on, man. It's just a space launching.
This is what it basically the idea was. There are two ways to look at it. The charitable way is to say, hey, we have all this proven technology. We need to build on top of that, right? The other way is to say it's the crony capitalism at work again. Okay, the Space Launch System comprises of this is the technology involved there. It's got 2 solid rocket boosters like the shuttle had. Imagine that big, huge orange tank on top of the engines, the same engines you had on the shuttle.
I'm remembering this conversation now, and I'm getting mad just hearing it all over again.
Okay, this is what they said. This is what the SLS system is going to be. All right. Now, by the wording of what Congress passed and the bill that was passed to fund this thing.
How recently did this come out?
What's that?
When did this funding happen?
I mean, it's been an ongoing, like, after one program got scraped. I think the recent funding, I got to look at like the recent approval was like 2010 or 2011. Okay. So here's the thing is the way this thing is worded is the only companies that can actually build this thing are the companies that were already building the space shuttle. Okay.
All right.
So it's basically a no-bid contract. It's saying, hey, listen, we're only going to let these companies do this. We're not going to let competition here. We're going to have such a narrow definement of what this is supposed to be that nobody else will be able to compete because, you got to use these engines and they have the license. Oh, you got to use this booster because they have the license to it, okay? Now, theoretically, this is supposed to reduce the cost of getting into space.
Sure. Because, you got rid of all that nasty competition.
Okay. And, and and actually, I think the booster rockets may not be the same as the shuttle. It may actually be the NK-33s, the Russian designs. So
it's a good rocket. It's a great rocket.
We're taking a system that we decided was not an efficient way to get people $30,000 a pound to get into orbit, And we're getting rid of that reusable
Okay,
part.
all right. Now, but here's the thing. I mean, first of all, it actually makes sense. If what made it more expensive to begin with was the reusable part, then yeah, go ahead and get rid of it. So at least that's
No, that wasn't the part that made it more expensive. It was the tanks and everything else that you threw away after every launch.
All right. Well, that's a good point. Well, but regardless, there's safety concerns with the shuttle, and hopefully this will be safer. Let's just say, for sake of discussion, this is a step in the right direction. The
$18 billion a year, $18 billion through 2017, over $3 billion a year worth of funding to go into this program with an indeterminate timeline of when this thing will really actually likely launch.
It
That
won't.
is lot of rockets. Me and Olaf go buy a big boar's meal. We eat it up. Nom, nom, nom.
There's no way this can. Okay, assuming SpaceX holds anywhere near to their plans, 3 years from now, this is going to be the bridge to nowhere. This is going to be This is going to be the witch hunt to see who voted for this thing. When all of a sudden, you want to choose 1,000 times more expensive way to get something into space than what you could do through the private enterprise. I mean,
This has been the lobby, and I'll tell you what. Maybe we should, what's it called? One of these days, get my buddy Dave Leventhal from Politico.com, who runs the fantastic Politico Influence blog, where they track lobbyist money for all sorts of things. To maybe do like a space lobbyist kind of report, and have him on here to talk about stuff like this.
Space.
But I mean, what's the nickname for this particular project?
Well, it's officially called the SLS. The nickname is the Senate Launch System because the amount of pork that went into this thing to get it passed it's just incredible and unprecedented. And this is what NASA has to deal with. NASA's like, we want a rocket, and the senators are like, well, why don't you use these boosters? And remember why the space shuttle blew up the first time?
Yeah, pork kills astronauts.
Because a design flaw that was only a flaw because of the way it had to be built and where it had to be built.
Because
go on.
Because certain senators had to promise work that came to their states, so they could say that I brought X amount of space money to Alabama, Georgia, Florida,
the
Mississippi,
solid rocket
wherever.
booster, instead of making one long cylinder, it was divided into segments so it could be shipped across state lines and then reassembled.
Wow.
It was a structural problem. They're going to be like, yeah, well, we can. It's a solvable thing. So that's the state of what's happened before.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
it's never.
The person that made that decision did not get fired. Nobody knows the name of the person that did that. When a private company, if they have a mistake or they screw up, they go out of business.
Right. No, the imprudent fail so that the prudent can scoop in and take advantage of the advancements.
Yeah, and there's always going to be it's space, and there's going to be complications, there's going to be problems. No technology is going to be perfect, but when you look at burdens that are imposed because of the politics of it, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
So NASA, but I mean, people at NASA.
But I guess here's my point is. Let's say that SpaceX continues to rock the way it is, and let's say this thing continues to lumber forward the way it is. I mean, every year it's going to be more and more idiotic as you watch the two side by side. To where at some point, I'm going to say 5 years this thing's gone.
Here's what happened. Okay, so NASA commissioned a study. NASA went to SpaceX, says, hey, if we wanted to have an equivalent rocket or bigger to take, to be able to take an entire mission to Mars, what would that cost if we were to ask you guys to build it? And so they had a couple $100,000 grant to SpaceX to try to figure out what it would cost to do this, doing what they understand about it. And SpaceX has been pretty spot on so far. SpaceX said, it'd be one of a kind of thing, but $2.5 billion
is what
Jesus.
Wait, to go to Mars?
$2.5 billion would be the total cost that SpaceX says that they could build the same thing, which would actually be like. For this program, which would be funded for development for the next 5 years or so, this would be about 10 months of funding for this program.
Oh my gosh, dude! I hope that SpaceX continues to do well and have success because we've been pretty big cheerleaders for him, and I'd hate to have massive
really just
disaster.
eat it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, listen, but here's what's amazing. Here is why we live in a Jules Verne fantasy land, amazing, brilliant, gilded time, and we should all look at ourselves in the mirror and then look at each other and say we are lucky to be alive because what we're talking about right now, and you saying with certainty that, like every year, and you're absolutely right, the further we get into this, the more this is going to seem like a ridiculous pork barrel, bridge to nowhere, boondoggle nonsense pinata, and SpaceX is going to actually be bringing the future to us by making our path to space a regular occurrence. That we could not say that a week ago before SpaceX launched. We couldn't say it, before Friday when they docked. We couldn't say it, before they ran through all these kind of things. This is all what's happened over the last week is now we can conceptualize it. Now it's not just we have faith in these people. We think these people can do it. Now we've started to see huge milestones be absolutely ticked off that list. And that's amazing that now we can say, look, SpaceX is that company, and hopefully
this
others follow.
Week, astronauts on board the International Space Station for the first time stepped aboard a private spacecraft.
It's awesome, man. The Millennium Falcon just came in, just to hang out for a bit, and then it's heading out of town.
And we can only hope each of the stages that they needed to accomplish, they've already orbited a craft and got it back to Earth. Now they've put a craft into orbit. They've docked to the space station. They've done those things together. Will this mission do all of those? We don't know. But they've been proven they can do each single one of those things that 5 years ago, 4 years ago, even 3 years ago, people said they're not going to be able to do it. It's too hard. It's too difficult.
Right.
And there are more challenges to await.
I look forward.
It's crazy.
I look forward to 20 years from now reading Atlas Shrugged 2032, the story of Elon Musk.
I tried to think of an analogy to this and what it could be like, and the closest I could think about was you get these incremental developments. You get a thing like the internet, which started off at I think it was CBN was one of the companies that worked on that. Then the government picked it up and it became the ARPANET and DARPANET and then internet. And it was this neat thing. If you were a big university or you were a government agency or corporation, it meant nothing to you or me unless we paid access to somebody to give us a T1 or connection to that. Then a guy named Tim Berners-Lee says, hey, let me make this very easy graphic visual way to look at it, to understand the data there. And then some people create a thing called Mosaic, and then we get a thing called Netscape, and then we have a different way to look at online, and then we get $1 trillion added to our economy, and we realize this internet's a real thing.
Yeah. Well, and think about that. Like, maybe that's the best concrete example is if you're over the age of 30, you've already experienced one massive revolution in the economy and massive revolution of what's possible. Your world became much, much bigger in the 90s. From 1990 to 2000, your world doubled in size. That will happen again over the next 10 years. We're seeing the beginning of I'm going to say maybe not over the next 10 years.
Throw your hat over the wall. Seriously. I don't know where there's a wall, Brian, but you're wearing a hat. I want you to throw it.
I'm going to space in 15 years. There it is. I've said
it. Dropping bombs.
Why not, man? 15 years? Think about what could be different.
I think it's the exciting thing I try to get at in my article is, there's no certainty here at all, but it's not a matter of somebody says, on paper, I have a plan. There is a rocket sitting on a pad in McGregor, Texas, that is to test this.
Yeah.
There are guys right now who have a calendar, who have a schedule, who have a spreadsheet in front of them of objectives they need to do. Tomorrow, Tuesday, back to work after Memorial Day. They're going to go out to this launch pad. They're going to tweak their wrenches. They're going to look at their laptops. They're going to do this thing. They're going to report in. And they have a time. They have a point at which they're going to try to test this. And then there's another thing. It's not a thing that could happen. That someday, people are making this happen right now.
It's amazing.
They want the test to and then mention more. The test to try to test the reusability thing of this will happen before we get to the finish of Game of Thrones on HBO.
That's amazing. Come on, man.
Just that simple.
Of course, there are other people that say that it's just as likely as us seeing the finish of Game of Thrones on HBO.
There is that.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what. Before we see, Are
you trying not to? You're trying not to make a spoiler.
Before we see the Dink ride a pig on television.
That's well
we
played.
will have a massive revolution in space flight. So I'll tell you what, it's amazing. And I know that, listen, there's certainly, we've gotten a reputation, and now according to Google, I think we saw a big spike in traffic on the website, I think largely because we've talked so much about SpaceX and we've been such cheerleaders for SpaceX that as it was a little bit of a news story this week, our page rank sort of really rocketed up, no pun intended. I think it's yeah. I mean, I think I speak for Andrew and Brian that we're absolute cheerleaders on this, but I
By
think
the way, is now as good a time as any for us to announce that Weird Things is now a wholly owned subsidiary of SpaceX.com? We can go ahead and then tip that right now.
Did you see Elon Musk explain? They're asking, like, there was when they were trying to do their launch the Dragon or the ISS, they use a thing called LiDAR, and somebody said what went wrong. He said, well, let me explain it to you. The Dragon uses a thing called lasers. And he did the Dr. Evil.
That's awesome. He's got a sense of humor to boot.
Do you know why the Falcon's called the Falcon?
Well, because it's a bird of prey that eats fish.
Brian, it's big and it's white. Why is it called the Falcon?
Because the pelican would be a dumb name.
False.
Why?
Millennium Falcon.
Oh, brain explosion. Are you serious?
Deadly.
The freaking Falcon landed on the space station. Oh, man.
the
Everything
Falcon
just got
did,
way
the Dragon
cooler.
did, but the Falcon got it there.
Whatever. It's awesome.
Yeah, same thing. Falcon was named after the Millennium Falcon.
That's awesome.
Well, there we go.
That's the guy grew up watching Star Wars. Is now making it happen.
Well, I'll tell you. Oh, you know what? I think
That
guys
was a
keep talking.
layup. That was a layup just then, Justin. The
I
two
know,
of
and I
us,
didn't have it queued up.
the two of us, just like we were passing the ball back and forth. We both made significant glances
Just to
to
sum
you.
things up for everybody. This is not. This is Cisco saying we've made a better router. This is somebody saying, hey, we've got this really cool piece of technology. All the things that become possible now. Okay, there's going to be space. Isn't just going to be SpaceX launching rockets. It's going to be planetary resources, and these other companies maybe too. It's going to be, Brian, how would you like to, do you like Maker? Do you like to build things? Do you like those 3D modeling machines?
Yeah, I guess it's all right. It's only an opportunity to turn all of industrial distribution up on its head.
How would you like to work in a 3D manufacturing facility to make spare tools up in space?
I guess it'd be all right. Are you
How
kidding
cool would that
me?
be to be a maker in space?
I mean, I'll tell you what. Every so often, the singularity doesn't sound like a nutty idea. All of a sudden, I think that maybe I'll live to see full on. Because think about it, you get a MakerBot up in the space station, you essentially have an Enterprise and a replicator. Like, those are real things. That's amazing.
Yeah, and that's and then you're going to get crazy money spent. Larry Ellison and Paul Allen are going to have a contest with their wings, but they're going to be like space yachts.
Yes.
Bangs.
Space yachts. When you get to $1,000 a pound, that becomes a possibility. When you get to $10 per pound, okay, when you take your car in your driveway and you realize, man, I could put that in space for the price I paid for it.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
It's just that
So,
simple, folks.
Do we want to do picks?
Yeah.
No,
I wanna
we have
find
one
out.
more reminder.
I said, do we want to do another commercial?
Remember, folks, that Destination Gym makes funny videos. You can go to youtube.com/Destination Gym. You can also be followed on the Twitter, Destination_Gym. Also,
Wait, how do you spell Jim? Is that GYM or
JIM, Destination_Gym. He also wanted to make sure that I wore a shoe on my head.
He's got his shoe on his
That's
head.
what $30 will get you.
Let it
on
never
your
be
head.
said that Justin Robert Young is not the Ron Popeil of weird podcasts.
Or the pancake rabbit.
Absolutely. So check it out. Destination Gym on YouTube. YouTube.com/Destination Gym. Pick time.
I actually got something I'm listening to right now, and I'm undecided about it. I don't usually just buy things more than a book at a time on Audible, but I figured diving in for a penny, in for a pound, and I am listening to the George
Shades of
R.R. Oh my God. By the way, let me just put this plug in right now because you're going to hear it a lot over the next 3 weeks. Do you realize that the Scam School book hit number 3 in the United States and we lost to 50 Shades of Grey because we came out the same week as that unstoppable trilogy? We were able to defeat the third of them, but not the other two. And so, like, freaking this go round, total war, bitches. I mean, it's like,
Come on.
it's Scam School book 2 coming out June 19th. But
Brian, I'm such a pal. I'll even send out a tweet for that.
what? Well, thank you very much.
So that's what friends do. They tweet each other's books.
Have I not tweeted your book?
Oh, I didn't say anything about me.
Oh, I could have sworn that I did. Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I gotta. You know what? I don't think I've started reading Hollywood Pharaohs. I need to start doing that right away.
What?
A good time to
All right,
tweet
so
is
what-
actually around 11 a.m. on a Tuesday morning.
Okay, that's good. I will do that tomorrow morning then.
What's the George R. R. Martin?
Back in the 80s, he edited a series of short stories called Wild Cards, and it's vaguely reminiscent. If you like The Watchmen, I guess would be the early parts of it. But basically, there's a space alien shows up, and he's got a conundrum, which is he's a space alien that has the same biology as humans, and in fact, it's rumored that maybe humans, were a colony of these guys. But they got this virus, and there's two warring factions, right? And so they're like, well, do we want to try the virus on our enemies? Because maybe that'd decimate our enemies. They're like, well, problem is, virus, maybe it decimates them. Also, maybe it gives them superpowers. Wait, superpowers? Those are rad. Why don't we test it on ourselves? Well, did you miss the part about maybe decimates them? See, we don't really know. Half the people, everyone's different. Everyone's different. That's where the wild cards come from. And they're like, got it. Let's go down and just drop it on humanity. See what happens, bro. And so somebody's given the job to do it, and reluctantly he doesn't want to do it, but somebody disperses this biological weapon. Everyone gets the disease, and it affects everybody differently. A lot of people go about their normal lives. A lot of people draw what they call jokers, where it's all of a sudden they have scales and feathers and arms, falling off. And other people draw aces. You got dudes who glow golden and can lift cars and stuff. And it goes. I haven't read the rest of it, but it it was from the 1980s, and right now it starts like during World War II, and I'm up to around the mid 1950s when a few of the aces, the 4 aces, they've kind of formed a super team, get called up in the House Committee on American Affairs. What's that one? Un-American Activities.
Right.
The HUAC or whatever. It's I'm really enjoying it so far, but
Cool.
So I'll tell you. I'll give you a full report when I finish it.
Yeah, remember there was like the Marvel Comics thing, like Strike Force Morituri?
Oh no, I never saw that.
So let me I think I got the name right. And that was kind of a cool Strike Force Morituri, and it came out in 1986, and the premise was like aliens invade Earth and they're almost conquered us, and a scientist develops a way to give us superhuman powers, but it like gives you you die within a year of getting your powers.
Oh, that's rough.
So it was basically you're going to have these characters that you'd like, and then you'd watch them go try to defend. It's we who are about to die. It's Strike Force Morituri.
Wow, that's kind of
was-
cool.
Yeah, kind of I guess it was kind of an 80s thing. Like, yeah, aliens, powers, you're going to die.
Yeah.
I have a pick.
Go.
It's right behind me.
What?
Hold on.
That looks like a lightsaber. Is that a lightsaber?
Ryan, I'm holding in my hands.
What? Those
On
look
my
like.
left hand, I'm holding a classic lightsaber.
Is that like a Force FX one? What is that?
This is the the beginner Hasbro model.
It's not bad. Sure.
Nice lightsaber, right?
Yeah.
Okay, pretty cool. Okay, audience there. It's kind of a nice color. But let's say I'm going to I don't know, Dragon Con.
Yeah. So you
Let's say
can.
I'm going to Dragon Con, and maybe I don't know, maybe somebody out there, maybe a Amtrekker or one of the many other people that I've got a gripe with. Okay.
One of the many people I want to
throwdown.
kill.
There's Okay, maybe Dan Dirks and his trash talking. Okay,
Sure.
Yeah.
maybe it's gonna come to blows. Okay, and maybe I'm gonna be in my maybe I'm a Sith, maybe I'm not kind of get up.
Sure.
Okay, with my Jedi robes and my black eye makeup.
Yeah.
Okay, and maybe there's gonna be a fight, and I'm gonna have my lightsaber. Now, do I want to use my nice little
No, man.
okay,
You don't wanna do
my
your
based
Hasbro?
on the graphics design,
No
or
way.
do I want to use something a little more powerful because when I get into
Whoa.
a fight,
Good God.
What
I
is
need a
that?
combat lightsaber.
That looks amazing.
All right, this baby, solid.
What is going on?
This is a combat lightsaber. There are two companies that I know of that make them. One is called Park Sabers. This one's from Ultra Sabers. Okay. And
So
if
these
you go
are designed to take
ultrasabers.com,
abuse.
You can see the different line. This is like one of the more basic models. And I'm going to show to people are watching. This is an all aluminum.
Yeah, no, it's spun
Rip.
like they clearly had it like on a lathe where
Yeah, this
they
thing's
cut it all down.
lathe. This has got this this plastic the blade part of it, which if we're in the Star Wars universe, I just burned off my fingers, but I
Right.
used a force technique.
Force stopping thing.
Yeah,
Hey, all right,
actually, this
so-
is a robotic hand, so I can touch it.
I guess-
Anyhow, the ultimate sabers. This saber is like this thing is strong. You can whack it into stuff. I almost hit my iPad with it.
So wait, it's
Okay.
designed to, unlike the Hasbro one where it's like they say don't hit anything with it, but meanwhile it clearly makes an awesome sound effect when you hit it. So but it breaks it, right? Whereas this guy's designed for abuse.
And the
Yeah.
way it works is there are other lightsabers there that have LED lights that go all the way up the
Yeah.
shaft. Lights all the way up the shaft. Okay?
Yeah.
But if you get into a fight and you start banging it around, okay?
They go out.
The problem is the LEDs can snap and they can break off and you can bruise your shaft, okay?
Sure.
Damage it. Now, the way this shaft works, I want you to look closely, is
Look at your shaft.
I can use two little screws to undo it, and I can pull my shaft free, and it's just one super bright LED light inside of there that illuminates the shaft.
So two screws and your light and your shaft just goes blah.
Bright red. Bright
That's-
red.
Jesus.
It's
You're
amazing.
children.
What about
So-
you, Justin? What do you got going
I don't know
on?
what's up with Justin. So this is and this was only, it was like 60 or 70 bucks, okay? So I'm all set, all right?
Yeah.
Here
You
we
hear
go.
that, Amtrak?
Now, you have modules you can get for this, by the way. They have sound modules. They have this. They have different designs. The traditional lightsaber, okay, that we're used to from Star Wars was based, remember, on like a light gun. Okay, that was what it came from. Was called a Graflex light gun that was used for like a flash. They found like large quantities of these, and they will actually take those and make you lightsabers based upon that. So you can have a lightsaber that looks like a classic Star Wars one, but it's not violating the copyright because they use the same thing it was made from, and those are called Graflex. And so they make those even brighter than this bad boy.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's a good looking piece. His shaft. I'll tell you. I've seen it. He's pulled it out for me when I visited his apartment, and I gotta say, impressive.
Never let him touch
most
it.
impressive.
Never let him touch it.
Most impressive. All right.
All right, I got a hat trick of picks real quick. Number one, first and foremost, of course, released this week. Number 4 on the Amazon best reviewed list is the brand new
mysteries.
tome from Andrew Main, Hollywood Pharaohs, which I read a while ago, and I read the first 2 chapters of on the new Andrew Main Stories podcast. So if you want just a free taste of it, you can go ahead, head over there. But I absolutely love it. It's been called the Big Lebowski meets Indiana Jones, and it really lives up to that. It's if you dig, I mean, I kind of described it as 2 elements that Andrew's kind of fused together: the action, the super high intensity action pacing of Public Enemy Zero, if you like that, and just the big imagination, the blue sky, super fun, exhilarating creativity of a chronological man. But this time it's placed into contemporary Los Angeles. So you kind of get your commentary on, a very the healthy end of our pop culture and our obsession with movies and loving big fantasies and what that creates, and also the darker side and sort of the hangers on and the criminality element of it, and it's all spun together in this this big awesome pulpy adventure with a very likable main character and an awesome heroine. So I think everybody should go pick it up. Again, like most Andrew Main books, this is 99 cents for now. It will not be like that forever, but go ahead and check it out. Or again, if you're like, I don't know, bro, I'm kind of interested, but I want to keep my fingers on my digital dollar, go ahead and listen to the first two chapters on the Andrew Main Stories podcast and just see what you
Justin,
think.
why don't we put those chapters at the end of this podcast?
Oh, gosh darn it. You want to know what? That's fine. Just, you don't even have to go to the Andrew Main Stories podcast. You can just stay listening and you'll hear it right at the end of this, and it'll be all right, folks. So check that out. Secondarily, friend of this podcast, friend of me, Brian and Andrew, Ryan Connolly did a short film called Tell, which you can go on search on the Film Riot. Of course, he does Film Riot. You can go search on that YouTube, and you'll find a link to it. I think it's at the Triune Films YouTube. Fantastic. He's an absolute talent, and you should really go watch it. And then the last one, I wanted to point it out. This book I picked up at like a comic book sale a while ago, and I just got around to reading it because I'm moving everything out of my room as I move. But it's called The Skrull Kill Crew. It's written by Grant Morrison and Mark Millar. Mark Millar, of course, Superman Red Son.
Can I just say, he had to describe this to me twice.
Yes.
And it was I understood everything he said the first time. I just couldn't believe that's exactly what he was saying. And I'm like, wait, no, describe this to me again. I'm like, nope, that's exactly what I thought you meant.
Like, those are not even words. Stop.
Okay, so basically, it's a story of two guys who you find out why they are A, able to identify them, and B, have a vendetta against them, but they're just going around killing Skrulls. If you're unfamiliar with the Marvel Universe, Skrulls are
bad people. Bad dudes.
Yeah, they're a race of aliens that can change their shape and are dead set on infiltrating humanity and bringing us to an untimely end. So the first scenes you see of this comic book are two absolute thuggish looking dudes busting into a school, shooting the school teacher, and then shooting an 8-year-old who are Skrulls. They can see them as Skrulls. It's, if you like They Live, it's very They Live inspired. It's, if you like Mark Millar, Grant Morrison is a very weird writer. He's a very good writer, very talented writer. But let's just say that part of the reason why they can identify these Skrulls is sexually transmitted. And that's all I'll leave you to right there. So check it out, Skrull Kill Crew. I have no idea if you can buy it. I found it at a comic book store, but I'm sure you can look it up somewhere.
Wow. You look like you have something you want to share, Andrew.
No, I just, it was one of those things like, I kind of like, what do you say? And they're like, oh, Grant Morrison. Got it.
Yeah.
Everything else writes itself.
I have a weird take. I mean, Grant Morrison, I love his stuff, but it's always one of those things where it's like, oh man, this is really well written. But also, did the hero need to be a cross-dressing LSD addict who had to blow the cockroach alien to save the world so it didn't turn itself inside out? Like, it's just, it's like, sometimes it's a little weird for the sake of being weird.
Well, that just belongs as a pick on weird things.
There we go.
Well, boys and girls, this has been a delightfully long episode of Weird Things, but we were just bursting with excitement to talk again about SpaceX, but we waited till the end to do that. We know a lot of you are excited about it. Some people are skeptical, and, skepticism is fine. Cynicism is something else. But, man, what an awesome week. What a horrifying week if you're into zombies. What an awesome week if you're into space.
What a weird week.
Yeah. It's a good way to put it, Brian. It's been weird.
Boom!
It's been weird.
Yeah!
I'd like to say it's been weird.
What?
You make a catchphrase at the end of show. Let everybody know the podcast is over. Would you like to buy a rocket?
It's little cocaine dust from me and Sergey. We have a big party. Many the big tits. They dance on the rocket.
I liked how we made Justin uncomfortable with the lightsaber.
Hey, so One thing real quick.
None of that recorded. We have to do it over again.
No, but you could tell that when I rebooted, there's a difference in the audio. I eventually turned it down right here, but I don't know if you have an equalization thing.
I can run it through a thing.
You can run it through a thing? You could do a thing with the thing?
I'll run it through a thing.
Make it do the other thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. 12:05 to 8. SpaceX zombies. Eat your face. All right, let me open up chats again. Chats, did you have a good time? Hey, tomorrow. Getting between the sheets.
Yeah, we're gonna do. I mean, we'll talk about it more on NSFW tomorrow, but I think we're going to we're gonna usher in a bit of a new era with NSFW, and maybe do a few more. Just me and Flying Brian Brushwood.
Flying Brian. This is what they call me.
Flying Brian Brushwood. We're just gonna be me and the old double B.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know. We're gonna try it out.
Yeah.
We have to get the magic back. We've lost that love and feeling.
We have one off week, and then we're like, we got to get the magic back. What's going on? Man, we had a good run of like 4 episodes in a row that I was like way excited about.
Is that on? The other? Oh no.
Yeah.
All right. Well, you want to know what? I'm gonna leave you guys so I can get Taco Bell and go to Andrew's house and watch last night's Game of Thrones.
Oh, you haven't seen it yet?
I have not.
Praying mantis.
That's amazing. That's a praying mantis.
2 guys are coming to church because she's eating this. All right, let's see it. A live praying mantis. A live praying. Hey, eat it! Don't bring it. Eat it. Eat it alive. Eat it. Hey, eat it. Eat it. Eat it. Put it in your head. Put it in your mouth. Put it in your mouth. Put it in your mouth. That's the deal. That's the deal. Go. Go. Just go. Eat it. Eat it. Do it now. Go. Do it. Do it. Do it. 1, 2, 3, go! Oh, no! Oh my God!
Yeah, I was hoping for a better payoff than her just actually eating it.
I can't think of anything that's not obscene to say right now.
No, I can't either.
Man, it'd be really funny if she like turned into a praying mantis now.
That's it? Just a chick
Why?
ate a praying mantis?
All right. I mean, she's pretty.
Hey, this thing that part of the world has to do every day to survive.
Right, I know. They're like, ooh, gross.
Dude,
I
bro.
ate bees in China.
You ate bees?
Bees, yeah.
Is that why?
Fried bees.
Is that why?
Bee's knees.
Did
maybe.
you try chicken feet? Do you know that the United States is the #1 world exporter of chicken feet? The whole world's crazy for chicken feet, except for here.
What about chicken butt?
I'm sorry,
Yeah,
what?
like when we think of a chicken finger, we have a totally different idea.
Chicken finger. No, man. Chicken finger. Chicken feet is supposed to be a big thing.
Yeah.
So what was the chat room reaction?
Oh yeah, let me go.
Boo!
Boo, mantis woman. All right, somebody promises they'll love this one.
By eating a praying mantis at a dorm party.
Oh, God damn
just
it.
got turned into Mantis Woman.
Yeah,
Motherfuckers.
too bad Mantis was already a crappy superhero.
I fucking exploded on this shit Saturday night. I lost my shit. Did you see this?
Birthday in front
What
of
is
me.
this?
My producer gave me his name and birthday.
No.
So I'm able to tell you a little bit about Leo's numerology in general, the map of his life, but also where he is in this year and what to expect.
That guy was our science teacher.
This is a very interesting character because this
does.
is someone who has, in essence, 3 completely different parts of his life. When one ends, another one begins, and then another one begins, and it's not in any way connected. For most people, life emerges, it flows. One part of life goes into the other. But for
The
this
fuck
man,
does any of that
things
mean?
stop and then they start, and that happens 2 or 3 times in his life. This is the 3rd incarnation, you could say, in this same life of his experience. And the interesting part about it is that It all began with something that happened in his life that was very important about 11 years ago. Now, what happens in this type
All right, so if you're following at home, there are 3 things that'll happen in his life, and one of those things started 11 years ago.
personality
When did Tech TV end?
Yeah. No. Hey,
they
oh,
can
look at that.
manifest absolutely anything if they're positive. So when he is positive, he inspires and inspires and inspires. But if he's negative, even if he's just thinking about something negative, people around him will get negative. They
All right, so also, if you're playing along at home, when he's positive, it makes other people positive, but when he's negative, it makes other people negative.
know why. He will create conflict in his life, and that doesn't work for him. This is someone who cannot create conflict. It's the wrong direction for him to go in. He's experienced it before. It caused him physical pain, and it can't happen again.
Do you hear that? He doesn't like conflict is bad for this. This is the type of person where a conflict is not a good thing, in case you're wondering.
Now he has to simply be a voice of inspiration,
Yeah, now he's going to be a fucking inspirato.
and he does it well.
Why are we even
Now, where is
listening
he
to
today?
this turd?
He's in a remarkable cycle of progress. Financial progress, progress within the human spirit of healing and movement and progression and promotion,
So many
and
things I'd like to
finances.
say.
I know.
Next,
I was just thinking about that.
So many things I cannot talk about.
If only we were not employed by Twit.
next year, there's more of a humanitarian undercurrent to everything that he does. There's more giving. There's more worldview. There's more a sense of the importance of things that are happening globally and how to reach out to people in ways that are different from what he is doing now.
Yeah,
Not that it will come to an end, but to add another layer to his life. What a fascinating fellow. What an interesting life, and what an opportunity.
Do you hear that? He's fascinating, interesting. He's got 3 things that happens in his life. Bad things are bad and good things are good, and something about progress. But don't just
3
take
profit.
my word for it. Make
How
up
much
your own
more
horseshit.
Making
do we
more
have to
money
listen
now than
to?
he ever has in his life.
This weirdo,
And-
Brian.
He's going through a era of unsustained personal happiness. Certainly no personal conflict.
No. Hey, I want to see something cool with the blue filter.
Yeah, fucking filter me up.
It's almost like the lightsaber's not on.
Wow.
No, it's like a very flat red.
There's red. There's blue.
What?
That's crazy.
Somebody
All
should
right,
use
I'm
this.
gonna leave so I can go to get Taco Bell and go watch Game of Thrones.
Dude, Justin,
Yeah.
you'll not be disappointed.
Oh no, I'm very much. I mean, listen, this
The
part
nacho
was-
burrito is amazing.
Yeah, get the
And by the way,
get the
let me
Doritos.
just say that tomorrow on NSFW, here's a tease for anybody who's gonna watch. I'm
You're
gonna
gonna
have a
drink
fully
Afri
seasoned
Cola?
rum Coke
Oh my god.
on the show tomorrow, and probably several of them.
Hey, Justin,
Yeah,
2 of the nacho burritos, please,
for you.
for me.
Okay. All right,
Dude,
kids.
yeah, enjoy it. It's gonna be. Call me afterwards because it's good. It's good,
will.
bro.
Brian, I saw it. Let's high five each
I
other.
have some thoughts. I've been thinking a lot about the new book, and I want to talk to you about it.
Wait a minute. Negative thoughts?
I'll talk to you. Not negative, but I've been thinking a lot about it, and my opinion has somewhat changed since I stopped reading it. But I'll talk to you about it.
Wait, but what was your original?
Order.
I very much liked it. I mean, and I still very much like it. But if one were to say that the story is drifting a bit, I would point to these things that I've been thinking about. Not to say that it is, just
Right.
say that if somebody were to make that argument.
It's a familiar. I spent the whole series convinced that it should be moving faster and that nothing's happening. And then I go back and I look at each book after I finish. I was like, no, I guess a lot happened.
It's not necessarily what happened, although. All right, we really can't have this conversation if I don't spoil it. So
All right,
I'll
all
do
right.
it on the phone, and then maybe we'll do whatever.
Ride a
All right,
pig, bro.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. killed him with my wizard powers.
But it's a good idea, don't you think?
Oh my gosh, there's a spider on the table.
Well,
there's a spider on the table. Kill it, kill it, Darren, kill it.
Yeah! Suckers. Let's look at Hawken. This is old footage, but OMG, do I love this game. This is over a year old. From an indie publisher. Yeah. All right, guys. Nighty night. Yeah, motherfucker. Bye, guys.